Hare Krishna devotees, welcome. So we're going to have several screens here, so you choose where you want to face, because Kuladri Prabhu is going to be on all of these 3 screens. So we'll give you a minute to get settled. I want to officially welcome you to the event that is, as disciples and well-wishers of Srila Prabhupada Swami, our signature event, our most awaited event of the year. What is it? The Vyasa Puja of our beloved spiritual master. Many of you have come from faraway places, warmer places, and we hope that your experience will be that even though our city is cold, our hearts are warm, and you will feel very much at home here. So for Maharaj's 77th Vyasa Puja, the theme that he has picked is maintaining the prominence of Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON. And who better to kick off the weekend celebrations than His Grace Kuladri Prabhu? Hopefully you'll have your camera open soon, Kuladri Prabhu. We don't see you yet. I was reading from Canto 4, and Srila Prabhupada translates Kuladrim as great mountain. And that's exactly what Kuladri Prabhu has been for the last 56 years for ISKCON. The rock of Gibraltar, the solid pillar of support. But he likes to serve from behind the scenes. So even though he carries so much responsibility, individuals rarely know him or know of all that he does. He intimately served in New Vrindavan during its formative years, along with many stalwart senior devotees. And in the past several decades, he has been the unseen backbone of developing structures, both legal and practical, that maintain our centers in North America. He maintains relationships with many legal attorneys and others who are setting standards to guide our movement. And Guru Maharaj told me that if I speak too much about Kuladri Prabhu, he won't like it. So I'll just add one more thing, that Maharaj said today that he loves Kuladri Prabhu very much. And I know from the exchanges I've had with Kuladri Prabhu setting this up, that the feeling is mutual. So we're in for a special treat. His theme is Srila Prabhupada, our founder and eternal link. And honestly, it took a little bit of arm twisting to get Prabhu to do this, because let's just say public speaking is not his favorite service to Srila Prabhupada. So let's express immense gratitude to him and welcome him warmly with a loud round of applause.
Hare Krishna Prabhus, I'm not sure if you can hear me. I couldn't hear the introduction, so I'm hoping that this is the right time to begin.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my obeisances to you all. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govani Pacharni Nirvase Sanyavadi Paschatya Desatarni Panchakapataruvis Chakripa Sanyubi Vachapatitanam Pavnevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. I'm a Maharaj Ki Jai. I don't see you, Maharaj, but I hope you're there. Thank you for inviting me to speak, even though you know I don't usually do public speaking, so don't hesitate to correct me and improve what I say. Tonight, I think we begin by trying to emphasize the position of Srila Prabhupada and what he tried to do, the magnitude of what he actually did, how one person, one divine person, could achieve such extraordinary results in such a short period of time. I believe tomorrow you will be hearing a lot more philosophy and scholarly presentations. I'm here to just tell a few stories talk about Prabhupada's life and a few personal experiences with Srila Prabhupada. So I hope you'll tolerate that. So I wanted to start by reminding us of Srila Prabhupada's beginning. Srila Prabhupada, the founder of Charya, of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he happened to appear on the day after Krishna's midnight appearance. Seems to signify some deep spiritual connection. He was born into a family. His father, Gaur Mohan Dey, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, he instilled in his son Krishna consciousness from the very beginning. Of course, the family would invite sadhus to come regularly, and his father would specifically request blessings for his son to become a servant of Srimati Radharani, whereas most families would ask for blessings from Krishna to serve Krishna. His father was directing those requests to become a servant of Srimati Radharani, through whom all of our parampara service to Krishna is transacted. So in his youth, Prabhupada's father would teach him Mridanga. Sometimes the mother would complain, "Why are you teaching him this? Teach him something more useful." Prabhupada would say, "I believe it will come to use for his use sometime in the future." Quite a foreshadowing to Srila Prabhupada, who started the global Sankirtan movement with his small Mridanga, New York City. So Prabhupada would also, we learned, carry on Rath Yatra in his neighborhood, even as a young child. Now, not only would he carry on Rath Yatra, but he organized his friends. And he would give them roles to play. You pull the cart, you fan the deities, you dust the path. So he was foreshadowing us, because now we see that Rath Yatra occurs all over the world. Srila Prabhupada began as a young child, indicating this important festival in Puri that Lord Chaitanya executed there's so much enthusiasm and importance. So Srila Prabhupada envisioned himself becoming a wealthy businessman. In fact, his astrology chart said that he would become extremely successful and wealthy, compared to the wealth of, at the time, Birla, which today that would mean Ambani, but at that time it was the Birla level. So Prabhupada thought, I will become wealthy, and from that wealth I will spread Krishna consciousness. So he envisioned himself to be a very successful businessman. But as we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, fifth canto, when Krishna especially favors a devotee, when he wants to glorify a devotee, Krishna makes arrangements. So in Prabhupada's life, Krishna started to take away. First a little at a time, then more. And so Srila Prabhupada Krishna's plan for Srila Prabhupada was to spread Krishna consciousness, glorify him as a founder Acharya of the movement. And so he made the arrangement despite Prabhupada's astrological chart. Sometimes we hear individuals, I want to become wealthy, and then from my wealth position, I want to support Krishna consciousness. In many cases, that doesn't work out. I think in Prabhupada's case, it probably would have worked out. But as we'll find out, in his instructions from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he did not want to wait. He wanted Srila Prabhupada to begin preaching as soon as possible. So, Prabhupada had his rooftop encounter with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. A good friend of his insisted that Prabhupada come and meet this sadhu. Prabhupada was reluctant, but his friend insisted. And Prabhupada, at the time, he was wearing khadi, which meant that he was a supporter of Gandhi. And in his early conversations with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he tried to persuade his to-be Guru Maharaj that, first of all, India needs independence. Who will listen to us unless we have independence? But of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted Prabhupada to begin preaching without waiting. And there was no consideration for the change in government or independence. Simply preach the message of Lord Chaitanya. That was his request. You're an educated young man. Learn to preach in the Western world and write and print books. So Prabhupada, that deep impression Prabhupada got from that brief encounter to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur inspired him. He went back to his pharmacy and he was an inventor. He had so many management responsibilities. But again, as those things started to fade away, Srila Prabhupada began to get the message. So he met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhu Maharaj in 1922. In 1933, he became initiated, named Abhay Charan, later Abhay Charanavinda. He received Diksha from his spiritual master. And that one moment's association, who can estimate the value of that meeting a pure devotee, one moment of association? So I was asked to give a few little stories of my experience with Prabhupada. I got to serve Srila Prabhupada on a few different occasions. I was initiated in, took second initiation from Prabhupada personally. Prabhupada invited me and Shruti Kirti up to his room, showed me the counting method and repeated the individual shlokas. We had been traveling with the roadshow, and I had been managing and booking engagements across the country. Prabhupada asked us to come with Kirtanand Swami at the time across the country, and he said, please focus on New Vrindavan, give up the roadshow program, and begin to focus on New Vrindavan. So I had one experience. Prabhupada came to New Vrindavan in '69, where he stayed up at the old original Vrindavan farm for almost a month, living very austerely with the devotees then. And he returned in 72, in 74, and in 76. In 74, preparing for him, I was in India arranging for a altar to be hand carved in India for Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra for Prabhupada's first darshan of them to become in 74. So this was 73 in Bombay. Went to the Motiwala, not the Motiwala, the Mistry, Rantrabai Mistry in Bhuleshwar. And they were designing with the traditional carving. Most of the temples had handmade altars that were beautiful, offered with devotion, but not with the original carving of the mysteries in India. So we were hoping that this first altar for Radha Vrindavan Chandra would be nicely designed. I took the drawings to Srila Prabhupada. In the meantime, at the time in India, the Reserve Bank required, if you were exporting an altar or something hand carved, you had to show income coming into the country before you could export it. So Srila Prabhupada was coming to New Vrindavan, and I had this problem. I had to get the altar to New Vrindavan before Prabhupada came, and the money had been donated by a number of supporters in India, so I had no way to show that money had come. So I reached out to a friend, Alan Coleman, who had a small shop in Manhattan at the time, very favorable to devotees. Asked him, how can I do this? He introduced me to a man. He said, go meet this man in this building. And I met that individual, and he taught me the art of bribing in India. Because when I went to the Reserve Bank, I walked into this building the size of a football field with 20 rows across and 50 rows deep. And I was told that my paperwork would start at one corner and wouldn't get finished. I wouldn't get approval till the end. So I had to go take advantage of how to bribe in India. I paid someone a certain amount of money. I got the paperwork and the altar was then free to be sent to New Vrindavan so we could assemble it. So I'm showing Srila Prabhupada, with that done, I was showing Srila Prabhupada the actual designs of the altar, which is there in New Vrindavan now. And he liked it very much. He especially liked that on the heads of all the pillars, we had small carvings of incarnations. So he remarked on how much he liked those things. So I was thinking, well, I was able to get the altar out of India, learn how to bribe, take advantage of the circumstance. Prabhupada liked the drawing, and so I was preparing to roll up the drawing and pay obeisances. I was feeling pretty puffed up and confident. Then Prabhupada turned to me and he said, how much did you pay? So you can imagine the hesitation in my voice. Maybe not. I told Srila Prabhupada how much I paid. He turned and looked at me and he said, you have paid too much. So I was, my balloon had burst. I was crestfallen and thinking that I had done such a wonderful thing, and then Prabhupada put me in my place. So Prabhupada comes to New Vrindavan. He enters the temple. We have had the new altar set up. Prabhupada comes in, pays obeisances to Radha Vrindavan Chandra, as he always does, greeting the deities. Prabhupada looks for some time, the deities, the altar, Prabhupada's going back to his Vyasa son, turns to me and says, it was worth it. Later he would explain, if the thing is right, if the thing is of value, then you must pay the price. And he likened it to Krishna consciousness. When you find Krishna consciousness, you must pay the price, whatever it costs. So that was a lesson I learned. And so going back to Srila Prabhupada's life, it's a little difficult interacting, not exchanging the hearing. So Prabhupada gets initiated in 1933. Sorry, I got so in 30. So he meets Bhaktisiddhanta in 22. He gets initiated in 33, and he begins Bhagavad Gita. I'm sorry, Back to Godhead in 1944. He begins publishing Back to Godhead magazine. So, on his order, he begins to try and translate, because he asked, how shall I serve you? And Prabhupada said, you're an educated youth, spread Mahaprabhu's teaching to the English-speaking world. So Prabhupada began his efforts by starting the Back to Godhead magazine and associating, and he began to translate into modern context, like Bhakti Vinod and Bhakti Siddhanta would want him to do. So even from the beginning, his Back to Godhead magazine in 1944, the slogan, what is the slogan across the Back to Godhead? Where there is light, there is where there is darkness, there is nescience. Where there is light, there is no nescience. Godhead is light. That phrase comes from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So right from the beginning, Prabhupada was referencing Chaitanya, the message of Lord Chaitanya. So Bhaktisiddhanta had sent Srila Prabhupada that instruction, and then in 1951, Prabhupada started to separate and focus himself. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came to him and would try to persuade him in dreams, come out, come out. So in 51, Prabhupada took a vanaprastha. And in that vanaprastha, he began preaching in the Calcutta area, Bengal. And in 56, he moves to Vrindavan. So, sorry, I'm trying to arrange my my notes here, and they're both hard. So, Prabhupada moves to Vrindavan, and he lives very simply, very austerely. He comments that previously, when he was making money and supporting the family, there was so much interaction. He said, now I'm in Vrindavan, living very simply, with nothing, and all I have is a list of names. He said he was not interacting with anyone. So Prabhupada was translating Srimad Bhagavatam, and the way he was doing it was on a handwritten typewriter, a hand typewriter. And the paper he was using was recycled. You know, in India at the time, before it was trendy to recycle, nothing was thrown away in India. So Prabhupada would buy paper by the pound. He would buy used invoices from businesses that were only one-sided. So on the back side of the invoices, Prabhupada was translating his Srimad Bhagavatam by himself there in Vrindavan. So he was also translating before he comes to America. While in Vrindavan, he translated the first 5 chapters of the Adi Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, fulfilling Bhaktisiddhanta's order and separating himself from family. In Prabhupada's study of from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he had an epiphany on the verse Vyavisyatmika Bhutir Ekaya Kurunandana. Prabhupada actually discussed how the purpose in one's life is non-different from fulfilling the order of the Guru. He said, that is my sole purpose now in my life. So when you hear these prayers by Srila Prabhupada, you know, they have a depth to them. They have that we can only aspire to try to understand. Because when Prabhupada says, I have no other purpose in my life, he is speaking from the heart. He's speaking from realization. We aspire to feel that way ourselves. But what he endured and what he persevered were really a testament to that commitment and that determination. So Prabhupada had that idea, and he then felt compelled in that epiphany that I must go to the West. And so at a very advanced age, we know the story. Srila Prabhupada sought passage on the Jaladuta. Not on the Jaladuta, he felt passage wherever he could. And the Scindia shipping line, the head of it was Sumati Morarji. And Sumati Morarji, he would request passage on the steamer. And we know that there were a few cabins left for passage. So Prabhupada had no money. He had no money for a flight. He had no money for the ship, so he requested. And she was resisting. She did not want to be responsible, as she said, for the death of a sadhu. Spending 4 weeks on the ocean, this frail sannyas sadhu from Vrindavan, she did not want to have his ill health and potential death on her hands. So she kept resisting and resisting. But at some point, Krishna must have touched her heart. Krishna had a plan for Prabhupada, had glory for Prabhupada. As Prabhupada was trying to glorify Krishna, we saw that Krishna would try to glorify his pure devotee. So at advanced age, he got free passage to Jaladuta. The term Jaladuta actually means water messenger ship, which is indicated. Prabhupada was bringing the message of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, to the Western world. And we can see that the acharyas, there were so many acharyas, previous acharyas, None of them had attempted to leave India and spread message of love of God across the globe. And we'll see how Srila Prabhupada was empowered by his surrender to Krishna, emptying himself completely of any other desire. Krishna was able to take him and, as he said, make him dance and empower him to spread that message. And again, we can only imagine how what magnitude of what Srila Prabhupada was about to do, how this frail man from as he called himself, an insignificant beggar, would be able to do across the world. So Prabhupada, of course, then gets on the boat, and as we know, Srila Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks. You know, the boat goes to the point of India and then out into the vast ocean. So all there was ocean for weeks, and it was very turbulent. And Prabhupada had 1 heart attack, perhaps a second heart attack. And we're thinking, why is Krishna putting this Prabhupada through this? He has surrendered himself. All he did was pack up his books, his publications, the first 2 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam in trunks, and a madanga like his father had taught him. That's all he had. He had emptied himself. Krishna, why are you sending him? Why are you putting him through this? You just see Krishna's trying to extract this type of surrender, just like when Krishna was in the coils of Kaliya serpent, how he would draw the emotion from Mother Yasoda and the gopis and the gopas. They're ready to just enter the poisonous water. So Krishna extracts that special kind of praying and surrender, exerting that pressure on his pure devotee. So, as we know, Prabhupada then has the dream. And Krishna in the dream shows Prabhupada that he is rowing the boat. And the next morning, the ocean becomes like a pond. The captain of the ship said he had never seen anything like it in almost 40 years of sailing. It became quiet, like a pond. And Prabhupada then said that he was taking shelter, reading Chaitanya Charitamrita daily for his vitality. And I wanted to talk a little bit here in this section about my interaction with Srila Prabhupada. I had 2 interactions with Prabhupada on a personal level, caring for him and serving him. In 74, when he would come to New Vrindavan, I had direct access to him, as Shruti Kirti did. Kirtananda Swami introduced us, and so we had, and I became the temple president, of course, so I had access to Prabhupada that were not easily available. So in 74, I was in Vrindavan, doing new business for New Vrindavan, importing, getting cotton goods, etc., as I would do once or twice a year. And in that year in 74 in Vrindavan, the temple was under construction. It wasn't ready to be opened. It was really a construction site with huts in the back, very few facilities for us. So at that time, malaria was prevalent, and Shrutikirti got very sick. So I was asked to come in, to step in and take care of Srila Prabhupada. At that time, it was the first 24-hour kirtan, and Prabhupada said our leaders must be following strictly, otherwise this is the type of thing that would make him sick. So Shrutikirti was placed into a different building, and I was there with Srila Prabhupada. And I would enter under the mosquito net in Srila Prabhupada's room and give him light massage. Shrutikirti and I have this, we share this story. And I was under the massaging Prabhupada under the mosquito in his large bed. A mosquito somehow came in. So I went to grab it and Prabhupada said, stop. So I'm thinking, oh, Prabhupada is seeing the mosquito as a inhabitant of Vrindavan. I can't, what to do. I can't imagine. So I don't know why Prabhupada is saying that. So I go back to massaging it. Then the mosquito happened to land on his knee. Prabhupada whisked him away and said, now he has attacked. Now you may get him. So a little bit of a lesson from Srila Prabhupada. And Shrutikirti and I share that story from time to time. So Prabhupada then became sick himself. And at that time in India, at least in Vrindavan, they would shut off the power at night. So the fans would not work. And so Prabhupada was becoming ill, very sick. And so I was lying on the floor next to his bed. And at night, Prabhupada would call out, Kuladri, help. And I would help Prabhupada out of his bed and walk him out to the back porch where we had a second bed set up. Because the fans were off at night, it would become unbearably hot inside. Outside, it would be cooler. So my arms would be under Prabhupada's arm and be walking him out to his bed. And I was then hurrying to get his pillow arranged and his sheet arranged and trying to hustle very quickly because Prabhupada was frail. Prabhupada had to hold on to the post. He was quite ill and infirm. So I'm doing this very quickly, and then Prabhupada just said gently to me, just do it nicely. That little comment has stuck with me. I'm thinking, I have to do this quickly. I want to do it for Prabhupada. But Prabhupada wanted it done nicely, and I've taken that instruction to heart. So whatever I'm trying to do, Prabhupada wants us to do it nicely, do it carefully. So I would take Prabhupada out, and then in the morning when the fans came back on, bring him back in. So I was doing this carefully with Prabhupada, and there was a small room next to Prabhupada. So when I wasn't lying next to Prabhupada in his rest, I was in that room separately. But one morning, Prishima, Prabhupada's sister, came into the room with Jamuna. There was a drama going on. Prishima always wanted to cook for Prabhupada. But when Prabhupada would try to carefully limit what she would cook for him because she would use heavy mustard oil and Bengali sabjis and things Prabhupada shouldn't be eating or wouldn't want to eat. But now Prabhupada is sick, and she's coming in. She knows Shrutakirti now is sick and is not in there, so she comes in, and she looks at me and smiles, and she says, Prabhupada wants you to bring this. I'm cooking for Prabhupada. Prabhupada wants you to bring this in. Prabhupada likes you very much. He likes you more than Shrutakirti. So you can please bring this into Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada can eat anything. She had told Shrutakirti, Prabhupada could eat nails. You don't understand what my brother can do. But Jamuna is translating this to me, and we're both kind of smiling. So somehow or other, with Jamuna's help, we convinced her that we would do it. And at the same time, we were careful not to bring it into Srila Prabhupada. So, me being in the room next to Prabhupada, eventually there was a small window in that room where the servant quarter was. Prabhupada was starting to get a little better, so I didn't have to sleep on the floor next to him. And I eventually got malaria. So I was moved from that place into one of the back huts in the back of the property. And it just happened that the fate artists were there. Prabhupada wanted them to learn how to make dioramas, the dolls that were made in India to exhibit the pastimes of Krishna, which turned into the museum in the Los Angeles temple. So Bhardaraj was there with the artist from Fate, and he was in the back. And so they moved me into the shack, the hut with him. He had a tapeworm. So, and his wife would come in to take care of him, Rukmini at the time. And she gave me quinine, and because I had a very high fever, and probably helped me survive that condition. So, as it turned out, Bhardaraj had a tapeworm, and somehow or other, by treatment by the Kavirajas, the tapeworm, he had eliminated the tapeworm. So, Prabhupada comes walking back to our hut in the back of the property. He comes walking in, looks at me, and sees that I'm starting to get a little better. He looks at Bhardaraj and says, so the intruder has left. And he smiled. And he was concerned. He wanted to see that we were being taken care of. Prabhupada treated us very sweet. So then Prabhupada recovered. I slowly recovered. Shrutakirti was back in service to Prabhupada. And we came in, Prabhupada brought us into his room, and he called us the two Brahmin brothers. He had called us in LA, he had called us into his room. And he had given us Brahmin initiation, so he saw us as two Brahmin brothers together. He said, now you two, go spend the day at the Jamuna. Spend the day at the Jamuna River. So Shrutakirti had said Prabhupada never would let him be outside of, distance, but he said that he gave us that freedom. We went to the Jamuna River. We covered our bodies in the clay of the Jamuna and baked from the sun. Draw out everything and spent the day at the Jamuna River. So back to the Srila Prabhupada's then efforts in America. So his early effort becomes penniless, and we know he wrote the poem, and and talked about he was an insignificant beggar, and that if Krishna, if you wanted me to dance, let me dance. And of course, again, he'd emptied himself. So he had nothing but trunks of books, a madanga, and 40 rupees, which in America was nothing. In fact, I was told that the captain of the ship asked Prabhupada if he had any money, and Prabhupada said no. And he gave Prabhupada $20. I told that story. I don't think it's true, but it sounds appropriate. Well, Srila Prabhupada, they land in Boston. Prabhupada does not disembark, and he understands, why did you bring me? If you're bringing me, please make me dance. I don't know how these individuals will understand my message. Please help me explain it in such a way that we're able to teach them the message of Krishna. You're insignificant beggar. And in that prayer, he also refers to Krishna as my dear friend. So there is, talk about Krishna. Prabhupada is talking about Krishna in terms of Leela, not Tattva, in that circumstance. And, it's in Prabhupada's mind, it's not a rags to riches story. It's not like Prabhupada didn't know there was going to be some Hollywood ending to this effort. He comes frail in his 70s, knows no one. He sees this as a hellish place, loads of passion and ignorance. And he's wondering, so he prays to Krishna, if you've come here, please let me dance. Teach me how to dance. Well, Prabhupada's there for almost a year. He has to live with people who are non-vegetarian, share a refrigerator. He goes through calamities, sharing apartments. And for almost a year, he gets no result. I mean, he's going to bookstores, he sells some books here, he puts on a lecture there. But then he starts going to the shipyard and looking at the board and thinking, I've tried my best. I came here under the order of my spiritual master, but it does not seem that I will have me make much difference. So at that time, coming back from the docks, he happens to bump into one Howard Wheeler, a professor of English. And Howard Wheeler looks at him and he says, "Are you from India?" And at that moment, and of course Howard Wheeler became Hayagriva and became the first editor of Prabhupada. So it looked like it was a cliffhanger. It looked like whether Prabhupada was going to make it or not. And then this connection was there. So he starts attracting young disciples in New York City, and he starts giving lectures. And in some of those lectures, Prabhupada would he would remember what his audience was like. In other words, he would say, "We have all seen Krishna." Because in India, Krishna is everywhere. He's on the calendars, artwork, you've seen him. But then he would recognize as his audience, no, they have not all seen Krishna. So he had to describe what Krishna was like. And we know that Prabhupada would respond by creating the art department. And this was Prabhupada's determination. He was going to create a society because Rupa Goswami says sadhu sangha is essential. You start out with faith, but you need the association of devotees. There was no devotee. There were no society. Prabhupada had to create the society. So in the early days, he even had to create an art department to show Westerners what Krishna looked like. And in some of the earliest attempts, once he was asked, Prabhupada, is this what Krishna really looks like? And Prabhupada at one point said, well, not exactly. He said, but you will recognize him when you see him. Prabhupada was being quite soft-hearted to the hippies of the time. So in the beginning, he's giving his classes, and I remember that one of the early instructions Srila Prabhupada gave me. I was the temple president in Vrindavan for about 15 years. And Srila Prabhupada, besides wanting New Vrindavan to become self-sufficient cow protection, which we had started, he also he gave the instruction to build 7 temples on 7 hills. And of course, this was his vision before even coming to America, because he wanted to create a holy place of pilgrimage in the West for the worship of Krishna. And therefore, he gave the project the name New Vrindavan. So that was an instruction, build the 7 temples on 7 hills. But we decided before building the temples, we wanted to build a special place for Srila Prabhupada. So we came up with the notion, with the concept of building a palace for Srila Prabhupada, building him an exquisite home at New Vrindavan so he could direct us. And I was visiting Srila Prabhupada and visiting him in Mayapur. New Vrindavan was under quarantine. Hepatitis epidemic had broken out, so Kirtanand Swami was locked in. They were quarantined, couldn't come and go. But I had already left New Vrindavan and was, again, meeting with the carvers in Bombay for designs for the palace and those things. So I brought the drawings to Mayapur and started showing them to Prabhupada, and he was looking at the detail and liking them very much, asking a few questions. So we got up and we walked out on the veranda. And Prabhupada does that all over. They are now beginning to build temples, starting temples for Krishna. He said, in New Vrindavan, you are building me a palace. He said, that is very nice. Thank you very much. Well, some encouragement from Srila Prabhupada was there. And in 76, Prabhupada came and toured the palace and was looking at it. And let me see, what are we looking at? So in 76, by that time, Prabhupada had opened temples and decided that we would hold in his New York, he had his New York facility, and decided that we were going to try and have Rath Yatra in New York in 1976. the plan was to bring down Fifth Avenue Rath Yatra. So the reporters in New York were invited to the temple, and they had like a mezzanine, and they sat around. And, sometimes Prabhupada could be very powerful, when they're talking about the scientists. I kick on their head. Other times he could be very charming and persuasive. And so with this group of reporters, he said, in the world, the most important country in the world now is the USA. And the reporters are all writing, yes, the USA. Then he said, and in the USA, the most important city in the USA is New York City. And these are all New York reporters. They're going, yeah, working the crowd. He said, and in your New York City, the most important street is Fifth Avenue. Reporters are all looking. He said, on that street, we are performing our festival, Rath Yatra. And, he's thinking that Prabhupada is glorifying Lord Jagannath, Krishna, Balaram, Subhadra. Prabhupada's attempt to glorify Krishna, bringing him down the most important city in the world, the most important street. And Prabhupada is parading the deities for the world to see. And you're thinking that at the same time, Krishna is rewarding his pure devotee for his determination and dedication. So he is actually, Prabhupada, as you know, would sit in the Subhadra. So the Rath Yatra is coming down Fifth Avenue. Krishna has given Prabhupada this present, Fifth Avenue, Rath Yatra, for the whole world to see. And when they close down Fifth Avenue, they have to close the side streets. So New York's finest, which they call the police force, are lined up all along Fifth Avenue. And like in Puri, where they have the guards all along the Rath cart. So the police are all lined up for Balaram, Jagannath, Subhadra, and Srila Prabhupada. One personal experience before that Rath Yatra, we were thinking in New Vrindavan, because we began casting pieces for Prabhupada's palace. We had a mold shop, and we take carvings from India, turn them into molds, and produce different aspects of Prabhupada's palace. So we thought at that time, for Guru Puja, what if we made an impression of Srila Prabhupada's feet to be worshipped during Guru Puja? So I brought a briefcase in New York. Now in New Vrindavan, we milked the cows. We were building buildings. No one was using a briefcase. But in my briefcase, I brought a slab of clay from New Vrindavan. So I asked Srila Prabhupada, to worship you properly at Guru Puja, can we take an impression of your feet? Prabhupada said yes. He was always very kind to me, and I had taken care of him before, so made me certain of it. So I opened the briefcase, lay out the clay, and I put some nice light white powder with the clay. And so Prabhupada wouldn't get directly dirty with the clay. So I put my arm up. Prabhupada steps on the clay. You wait a second, a couple seconds. Then I put a towel down. Prabhupada steps off clay, and I dust off his feet. And And I look at the clay, and there's no mark. There's no mark. There's no footprints. And I'm looking at this and wondering, now I just saw Prabhupada step on this clay. I had a similar story. I spoke with Jamuna, and I had a similar story. She once said, on a walk along the beach with Prabhupada and some of his disciples, there were footprints all along, but she said wherever Prabhupada walked, she could not see them. So anyway, back to my purpose was to get an impression of Prabhupada's feet. So I looked at it and said, Srila Prabhupada, we need to soften the clay. Please allow us, give us some time. Prabhupada said, okay. So he went to take lunch. Our casting man, Siddhanu, and I went in. I added water, we massaged it, we got it much softer, added more powder, put it in. Prabhupada came. I put my arm out. Prabhupada stepped on the clay. This time, I pressed each individual toe firmly into the clay. I grabbed his heel and pushed it down into the clay. If I had gone back to New Vrindavan without an impression, I would have been ridiculed. I was there for a purpose, and we had to come back with Prabhupada's lotus footprint. So Prabhupada then stepped off into the towel, put on his chadar, and he went to the Ratha Yatra. Now, wish me, I was not able to save that towel. I mean, it came in, we kept it at New Vrindavan, but personally, I should have kept that towel. On the other hand, I took the dust from Prabhupada's feet, actual Prabhupada's feet, and put it on my head. So what is that? Unless one receives the dust of the feet of the pure devotee upon his head, he's certainly a dead body. Of course, that's the analogy, and that's our connection. You know, taking the dust from the lotus feet of pure devotee means unconditional. You must take mercy of a pure, unconditional devotee to be introduced. Only they can deliver Krishna, another devotee. Krishna is never obtainable directly. This is our link. This is our link with Srila Prabhupada. So that imprint we took to New Vrindavan, and we began making castings of Prabhupada's actual footprint. And if you go to New Vrindavan, that clay with the dust, the actual dust, we can attest to and show actually the dust of Prabhupada. I sometimes say this is the only place where we can be assured that there's dust. And then Sri Kirti pulls out a pair of slippers. He said, well, I have the dust on the slippers. What does it to your head? So Srila Prabhupada then starts this global expansion of Krishna consciousness. I don't know how much time we have. You know, I'm not getting any signals. I can't hear any of you, so I hope what I'm saying is the second time I'm had the personal care of Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. Well, actually in Juhu. I come again to Juhu. Prabhupada was again in ill health at that time. When I came to Juhu, Mal Krishna Maharaj grabbed me and said, I want you to be on our team. He is ill. And so I was on the team with him, Bobby Ram, and I had the night shift. And Prabhupada, again, just gently rubbing him with powder try and ease his discomfort. I would do some grape juice and Horlicks and soft rubbing. And this was a very intense time because this is in 77, 1 year after his triumphant Rath down Fifth Avenue. And Prabhupada was quite ill. And that's when I was there with Prabhupada all night and try and ease some of the discomfort. And Prabhupada actually called for the senior devotees. Call in my senior devotees, we are going to discuss something. And the topic was what to do. And the senior men are all, Prabhupada, we want to take you to the best doctors in the world. We want you to continue leading us in Lord Chaitanya's sanctuary. Whatever we have to do, wherever we have to go, we need you to be with us. We'll take you to the best doctors in the world and help you recover. And Prabhupada says, Lord, may I go to Vrindavan, be my time to go to Vrindavan and see what Krishna wants. And so they had that epic meeting, and so their Prabhupada shook his head and make a determination.
सारा खाना ही फर्नेस रूम में कहाँ से आ गया समझ नहीं आया. ये दोनों बच्चों का ही काम है. मैं कहाँ से जाऊंगी नीचे फर्नेस रूम में?
मैं भी कहाँ से जाऊंगी मम्मी?
Someone's on here. Someone was on the speaker. So I had to shift after they all left, and Prabhupada, I'm gently rubbing Prabhupada. So Kuladri, what do you think? I said, Srila Prabhupada, I feel like such an intruder. I just felt so uncomfortable. And Adhikar, I was not able to and I said, well, it just seems you're waiting for Krishna to decide. And if you're waiting for Krishna to decide, maybe best to wait in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada nodded his head, thank you. And that was his decision. He said, the choice between going to the doctors and putting myself in the hands of Krishna and Balaram, and he decided to do the latter. So, yeah, and any concept that there was any other intention by anyone of not providing Prabhupada best health medical care anywhere in the world, and that there was any kind of other attempt on Prabhupada is utterly ridiculous. And I can attest to it. I was at that meeting. They were begging Prabhupada, let us help her recover. So, yes, so at that time, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhu, had his American car there, and we took Prabhupada at the train station to go to, on the way to the train. While Krishna Maharaj would tell Bhakti to slow down. Prabhupada said, while Krishna was trying to tap on his shoulder, slow down. I said, no, speed up. Of course, as fate would have it, we got to the train station. And the train was going to leave 20 minutes early. Not a stand. We take Prabhupada on the train to Mathura and bring him from Mathura to Vrindavan. Prabhupada's final return to Vrindavan. So Kaviraj comes and says, try to give him something. Try to build his strength. So I tried cooking. He said, try mung water, and tried various things. And actually, Bhakti True Swami at the time, this is before he was sannyas, he would help me and we would try to cook things. Maybe bring them to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada couldn't eat anything. And then there was a call for 24-hour kirtan. Then Prabhupada was saying, the message went out, senior leaders, please come and be with Prabhupada. The signs are that Prabhupada will be leaving us. So we're praying. Prabhupada, you see the leaders are surrounding Prabhupada in the bed. We're praying, Krishna, Krishna, please keep him with us. And then I'd been with Prabhupada for some time. I mean, Kirtan Swami came at that time. And whenever we would meet Prabhupada, we would always bring gifts and various things. So we brought Prabhupada various gifts, handmade jewelry for Prabhupada, beads, new outfits, silk outfits for Prabhupada. And the devotees are praying, Prabhupada, we're praying to Krishna. Maybe if you pray to Krishna to stay, maybe Krishna will grant your prayers, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, in a kind of very nonchalant way, kind of said, okay. And there was kind of this hope that if Prabhupada's praying, and Prabhupada said so gently, Krishna, then we are thinking Prabhupada. So, yes, Srila Prabhupada, you recover and please come and stay in your palace at New Vrindavan in Europe and America. Let's see which palace Krishna's in. I'm getting ready to go back to New Vrindavan. There was that faint hope Prabhupada may recover. And when Kirtananda Swami came with gifts for Prabhupada, we would always bring Prabhupada milk sweets wherever. The New Vrindavan milk sweets. He loved the special New Vrindavan cows and the cream and the richness. He loved New Vrindavan. So at that time, we were able to pack ice cream in dry ice. And Kirtananda had brought mango ice cream from New Vrindavan. So since I'd been trying to feed you, I took the chair. I said, Prabhupada, can I give you some New Vrindavan ice cream? Prabhupada was, pushed up with pillows. Just kind of gently nodded his head, like, okay. So I took a little tip of this full of mango ice cream. Put it between Prabhupada's lips. Prabhupada tasted it, nodded his head, like, and I believe that was the last sweet that Srila Prabhupada had. Was with us. One other thing I wanted to mention, and I bring this up and I'll connect with just talking about my wife, Srila. Remarkable devotee, actually, quite extraordinary. Always surrendered. She ran half of New Vrindavan. In the schedules, we had 100 women, all the schools, the nursery, deity kitchen, devotee cooking. She ran the schedule of all the women, all of the pujari scheduling, all of those things. So There were the fundraisers, there were the brahmacharis, there were the buildings, and she ran the day-to-day project. And although I was president there, and we've been doing this for so long, she has yet to come to India. She's never been in. When her parents would give her money for tickets, she would give the tickets to the Sankirtan mothers. We purchased, her parents gave money for purchasing of a house. She gave the house to mom. So why am I bringing this up? Sometime after Prabhupada's departure, Tamal Krishna is visiting us. Wife and I are sitting. Krishna Maharaj says to her, Prabhupada, we used your outfit for Srila Prabhupada. And she's saying, oh, you mean it was adapted and you're able to put it on me and Prabhupada's body? He said, no, you don't understand. When we prepared to enter into his samadhi, he dressed Srila Prabhupada in the outfit that you personally sent him. Srila Prabhupada is wearing that outfit for samadhi. So sometimes it takes time to show. Krishna tells you something. So I did what the altar Prabhupada said, ate too much, and then later he said it was working. I sacrificed so much. I've been to India, but she was talking. Prabhupada not wearing So, to end, I'd like to read
Kuladri Prabhu, I just wanted to
prayers that were written
request.
by Govinda Maharaj.
We have 10
much
minutes.
time?
We have 10 minutes to wrap up. If you can
Okay.
start bringing this.
This will be done.
Thank you.
Govinda Maharaj, Srila Maharaj, who declared Srila Prabhupada Shaktavesh Avatar. We in glorifying Prabhupada, but for Sridhar Maharaj to say that his depth comes from a different level. And so one of his disciples, as a brahmachari, and later became Govinda Maharaj, he sent to help Srila Prabhupada in Calcutta distribute Bhagavad. Back to Godhead that Prabhupada was producing, and train him up in spreading Krishna consciousness. So he wrote pranam mantras for Srila Prabhupada, and I want to read them to you. The first one starts out like the generic one that we use, that Prabhupada used, following in Vedanta Saraswati, but it's slightly different. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Swami Shri Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha. I offer my humble obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is Krishna's beloved associate and who came down to this plane from Goloka. This idea that Prabhupada descended from Goloka as an eternal associate of Krishna to carry out the order of Krishna, is our Lord Nityananda. Oragyam Shirasi Dritra Shaktavesha Sarupini Hari Krishneti Matrena Praschatya Prachitarne. Taking the order of his guru on his head, he is a Shaktavesh, empowered incarnation of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, his mercy personified. He distributed the Hare Krishna mantra, all all over the Eastern and Western world, the entire world, delivering and uplifting all the fallen souls. But we remember Prabhupada traveled the globe 14 times. We can't get in the car and go somewhere without credit cards, keys, so much, everything, our phone. Prabhupada had nothing. And he got on that ship to deliver what turns out to be the entire world. He circled the globe 14 times, and in every one of the countries that he visited, he established Nam-Sankirtan. He delivered the holy name to the entire globe. And he's called Shaktavesh, empowered, is frail in his 70s, battling the globe 14 times. You can imagine. Vishwacharya Prabhu Divya Karuna Murtaye Sri Bhagavat Madhurya Ujjvala Gita Jnana Pradayane. He is the best of millions of gurus and so-called Jagat gurus because he is the personification of divine mercy. He has distributed the sweet nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. So this frail, what he called himself, insignificant beggar, has now distributed the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita over the entire globe. No other Acharya, Mahajano, Yenikata, Sampanta follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. What category is Srila Prabhupada for distributing the knowledge, not only the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, to the entire world, hundreds and millions of his books all over the world, but he introduced the world to Krishna Lila, the most esoteric, elevated understanding of the absolute truth. By Prabhupada's effort, establishing the BBC, printing books as he was requested by his spiritual master, and having those books, Krishna Lila, distributed all over the world. Wherever he put his foot down, there are temples now, devotees in the streets. Or Sri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati, Radha Sambodhya Sita, Gurule. He is constantly engaged exclusively in the devotional service to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Sri Rupa Goswami, and Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. I offer my humble obeisances unto you, Srila Prabhupada, who is like a bumblebee, always tasting the nectar of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. But we see someone who has sacrificed his life, his entire life, exclusively, as he said. He had that epiphany. No other purpose in my life than to serve Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Sri Rupa Goswami, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he requested, to spread Krishna consciousness in the entire villages all over the world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Kuladri Prabhu. Guru Maharaj, is there anything you would like to say in response? Is there anything you would like to say before we end?
Well, I wanted to say that in that same mood, I was asked by Prabhupada Maharaj to help him, and he did something quite historic, actually, in the Long Island case, because there was an attempt to capture that corporation that Prabhupada originally created in New York when he finally established ISKCON in 1966. There was an attempt to capture control of that original corporation, and to somehow or other capture the funding because ISKCON, the term ISKCON and ISKCON Corporation was the benefactor of the BBT Trust. So there was an attempt to seek funds from the BBT. So Prabhupada Maharaj took this challenge on his shoulder personally, and I was able to assist him. And it was quite historic in what he did by himself, protecting that corporation and protecting and shielding the BBT funds from the splinter organization. So that example that he set of making your life the purpose of your life to carry out the order of the spiritual master. I want to thank Prabhupada Swami for setting that example and allowing me to help him in that effort.
I don't know if you know, but I've been hearing your whole presentation.
Ah, Maharaj, embarrassing. I'm not a speaker, Maharaj, you know that.
I twisted your arm and you said, ouch. And then you said, okay. You did fantastic. You know, by the way, the internet sometimes faded out. Your voice wasn't always audible. You know, that's technology. It's not Kuladri. You know, it's the world we live in. That's how we're communicating these days. So I want to thank you personally for, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone into an uncomfort zone and assisting in this mission of keeping Prabhupada in a very prominent position in our lives going into the future. That's our theme. So we'll see you down the road. You know, maybe in Long Island. Who knows? Srila Prabhupada.
That's an insider joke. Thank you, Maharaj. We're in it together. You know, I don't know what was said about my biography, but let me just tell you, whatever it was, the way is to find a serious advanced devotee and offer to assist them. Whatever was on that list of things, I've always looked for a senior advanced devotee who is dedicated to Srila Prabhupada and offer to assist them. Then you build your biography that way. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Jai.
Prabhupada Swami Ki Jai. Thank you, Maharaj.
Let's give a big round of applause to Kuladri Prabhu. It's a special treat for us, Prabhu, as grandchildren of Srila Prabhupada to get to know Srila Prabhupada through the eyes of those who love him, and also a very special treat to see the loving exchange between God brothers. Thank you so very much for being with us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I made a fool of myself.
And devotees.